This is Steve Lionel, Chair of the City of Nashua Zoning Board of Adjustment, and this is the April 27th, 2021 Zoning Board meeting. As Chair of the Zoning Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by Governor Sununu due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the Governor's Emergency Order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-4 and extended by Executive Order 2021-4, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized to meet electronically pursuant to the Governor's Emergency Order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, we are video conferencing utilizing the Zoom application for this electronic meeting. Public access to this meeting is also provided via Zoom, and a link to the meeting is contained in the meeting agenda available on the city's website. The meeting can also be streamed through the city's website, nashuanh.gov/318/CTV. And the public may also view this meeting on Comcast Channel 16. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting through public postings and, where applicable, notice to abutters. Instructions have also been provided on the City of Nashua's website at nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting via phone or channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. The chair, that's me, is in control of the meeting. To the extent practicable and advisable, the board will follow the procedures as identified in its bylaws. The applicant will present the applicant's case, followed by questions by the board. We will allow for a rebuttal period as best as possible for persons wishing to speak in favor or with questions or opposition before the board deliberates and determines an outcome. Normally, the board utilizes a light timer, which will not be available. However, the board and all participants should endeavor to comply with the timeframes of 15 minutes maximum for the applicant and 5 minutes each for anyone wishing to speak in favor or in opposition or with questions. Applicants, their representatives, and individuals required to appear before the board are appearing remotely and are not required to be physically present. They may contact the planning department to arrange an alternative means of real-time participation if they are unable to use Zoom. Documentary exhibits and/or visual presentations were submitted in advance of the meeting so that they may be displayed for remote access viewing. Real-time public comment can be addressed utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access or by telephone. Real-time comments via audio will be addressed at the conclusion of the public hearing. The public is also encouraged to submit their comments for future meetings via email to the planning department at planning@nashuanh.gov or by mail. Please make sure to include your name, address, and comments. Letters should be addressed to the planning department, P.O. Box 2019, Nashua, New Hampshire 03061. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Zoning board meetings will be held electronically until it has been deemed safe to conduct more typical meetings at City Hall. The Zoning Board, the Planning Department, and City staff thanks you for your understanding and patience during this difficult time. Tonight, we will be hearing requests for deviation from the Nashua Zoning Code in the form of applications for special exceptions and/or variances. A special exception is a request that seeks permission to do something the zoning ordinance permits only under special circumstances. To grant a special exception, 5 points of law are required to be met. These are outlined in the application and will be summarized in board motions. A variance is a request that seeks permission to do something that the ordinance does not permit. Variances also have 5 points of law to be met, different from those for special exceptions. Per the City of Nashua bylaws and State of New Hampshire revised statutes, a minimum of 3 or more affirmative votes are required to approve any application. In addition, this board will hear all scheduled cases if a quorum of 3 voting board members is present at this meeting. Any citizen has the right to contest the decision that this board makes. Should we make a decision that you believe is an error, you have the right to request a rehearing. A written rehearing request must be received by the City of Nashua Planning Department within 30 calendar days from the date of decision. Should this board not grant a rehearing request, you can file an appeal directly to the New Hampshire Superior Court. Please contact Mr. Falk of the Planning Department for more information. So for this information, excuse me, for this meeting, we have the following full board members in attendance. We have myself, Steve Lionel, I am the chair. We have Ms. Mary Ellen McKay, who is our vice chair. We have Mr. J.P. Boucher and Mr. Rob Shaw. I understand Mr. Jack Courier, who normally serves as our clerk, will be arriving late. In his stead, Ms. McKay has graciously offered to serve as clerk for this evening. We also have the following alternate members in attendance. We have Ms. Stathia Boris. Do we have Jay Yes, we have Jay Mankara, and that's it. So we do have a quorum. In the absence of Mr. Courier, did somebody say something? Or okay. We will alternate between Mr. Mankara and Ms. Boras for voting to fill out the 5-member voting list. In addition to board members, we also have with us Mr. Carter Falk, who is the Deputy Planning Manager, Ms. Kay Poirier, the Zoning Coordinator, and Mr. Matt Sullivan, Planning Department Director. So we'll start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Mary Ellen McKay.
I am present here in my home office and I am alone.
J.P. Boucher.
I am present and I am alone in the room.
Rob Shaw.
I am present and there is no one in the room with me.
Jay Mankara.
Present and I'm alone in the room.
Stathia Boras.
I am present and I'm alone in the room.
And this is Steve Lionel, and I am present and obviously, and there is no one in the room with me. Alternates may fully participate in discussions, but will vote only if a full board member recuses themselves or if there are fewer than 5 full board members in attendance, which at the moment there are. Mr. Falk, are there any changes to the agenda for tonight?
Mr. Chairman, there are no changes to the agenda.
Okay. Now, our first case is a little unusual. This has to do with a set of variance requests that were put before the board earlier. And one of from Daniel Richardson and Jane Richardson. And one of the variances was approved and one of the variances was denied. The Richardsons appealed that to ask for a rehearing request, which was denied. They appealed it to the Superior Court, which was their right. And the Superior Court issued a rather unusual decision in that the court instructed us to approve the variance. Normally, the court instructs us to have a rehearing. That did not happen. So we are going to, I do want to note that the court's order misstated what the board did. The board did not find that the variance met points of law, and the board did not rely on some external criteria for its decision. However, we have been ordered to approve the variance. Therefore, I'm going to make a motion to approve the variance. Let's see now, which one was this? Because there were 2 variances. I don't remember which one it was. Excuse me for a moment. It was variance number 1, which was a setback restriction. And so I will make a motion to approve that area variance. Area variance. Do I have a second?
I second that.
Ms. McKay seconds it. Thank you. Any discussion of the motion? There will be no public hearing on this, by the way.
Mr. Lionel, who will be the alternate voting, please, for the record?
Ms. Boras will vote on this one.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a second, and we have no discussion. So, Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Ms. McKay votes yes.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes yes.
Ms. Boras, how do you vote?
Ms. Morris votes yes.
And I, Mr. Lionel, also vote yes. So the variance is approved. And that's all we can say about that.
Mr. Richardson can begin the process to obtain his building permit.
Yes, there will be no 30-day, usually 30-day window of appeal. They can do what they want.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Richardson.
Moving on to case number 2. This is owner is Vaca Family Revocable Trust, address 47.5 Gilman Street. Vaca Family Revocable Trust, Helen and James Vaca trustees, sheet 94, lot 84, requesting variance from Land Use Code section 190-16, table 16-3 to encroach 2 feet into the 10-foot required front yard setback to construct a 6-foot by 24-foot front farmer's porch. This is in the RB zone ward 6. And voting on this case will be Mr. Minkara as an alternate. So is there somebody here who is going to present this case?
I'm Helen Vaca.
Okay, please give your name and address for the record, and then you have 15 minutes.
Helen Vaca, 49 Gilman Street, Nashua. What else you need? I'm gonna lose you. Oh my God. Oh, there's.
Yeah, okay, so we have one of your visuals. If there's another one that you would like us to look at, please just briefly walk us through your application and what you're trying to do.
On the farmer's porch goes over 2 feet from the I guess the proposed area, and so that was what we were looking for the variance for, just so that we could complete that farmer's porch. Everything in the neighborhood kind of sits on the sidewalk. We will still be further back. We'll still be about 10 feet back from the sidewalk, but that one corner, as you see on the right, that one is it's going over about 2 feet.
Okay, that's pretty simple. Do you have anything else to add?
No, I think, we're improved. That house has been kind of been a terrible mess for years. So we're redoing that whole house, and I think the neighborhood is much improved by it as well. So, but I'm hoping that the board sees fit to grant that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board for the applicant?
Oh, okay. I thought I had an input.
We'll get to a question from the audience in a moment. The first item here is, are there any board members who have questions for the applicant? Seeing none. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Not seeing anybody. Okay. Is there anybody present with questions?
I am in favor.
You are, I'm sorry, please give your name and address, please.
Darian Guzman, 60 Blossom Street.
Okay, do you wish to say anything more?
No, I think it does add value to the neighborhood, and I think it's a good plan.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak in favor? Not seeing anybody. Okay, so we'll go back. Is there anybody with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? I am not seeing any, and I don't recall receiving any emails about this application.
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, so that I will, since there was no opposition, there's no need for applicant rebuttal. I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Ms. McKay, do you have any comments?
Excuse me. Hi. No, I think that it's straightforward, to the point. We have an abutter stating they're in favor of this. I fully support this application.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
Also support the application. Again, just to note that it's a minor incursion, at one side of the house because the house doesn't sit square on in the building box. So again, just minor incursion. It's something that we've seen before, or farmers porches, and again, I'll support the application as is.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
I'm in support, like Mr. Boucher just noted. There's, the house is at a slight angle relative to the lot, so that's why we have encroachment on one side. The other thing, I think it's also notable, is the house is pretty far set to the front of the property already, but that's consistent with the rest of the neighborhood. And the farmer's porch, a 6-foot depth is a reasonable but not excessive depth. And I think this board's on similar discussions about front porches, that it's not the same or as an enclosed structure as far as its presence even to the front of a property line. So for all those reasons, I am in support of this application.
Thank you. Ms. Boras.
I'm in support of the application as submitted.
Mr. Mancara.
I also support the application for all the reasons stated.
And I also support the application for all the reasons that everybody else has said. Would somebody care to make a motion? Mr. Shaw, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion on behalf of the Vaca Family Revocable Trust, 47.5 Gilman Street. The request is for a variance from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3, to encroach 2 feet into the 10-foot required front yard setback to construct a 6-foot by 24-foot front farmer's porch. This is in the RB zone. The variance is needed for the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property. As noted in our discussion, the house is fairly far set to the front of the property already. It's also not square to the property lines. And so the actual encroachment is almost non-existent on the left side of the property, and the 2 feet is only at the right corner of the proposed porch. It's also an open type structure, so that the presence and impact on the front property line is diminished compared to a closed-in year-round type of structure. And I also wanted to note that this is it's not unusual. The majority of the homes in the vicinity also are very front towards the front of the properties. It's within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. There's no indication there'll be any adverse effects on surrounding parcel property values. It's not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice will be served. And again, I move to approve this area variance.
And Mr. Boucher, thanks for your second. And a reminder, Mr. Mancara will be voting on this one. So, any discussion of the motion? Okay, none? Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor.
Mr. Mancara, how do you vote?
Mr. Carr votes in favor.
Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Ms. McKay votes in favor.
And I, Steve Lionel, will also vote in favor. So congratulations, that's 5-0. Your variance is approved. Please note that there is a 30-day window of appeal. Should somebody wish to make an appeal, they should contact the city planning department. So congratulations again. So we move on to case number 3. Owner is 337 Main Realty. Applicant is New Hampshire Signs, Peter March, agent for Glidden Auto Service. Address is 337 Main Street. Sheet 108, Lot 28, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-101, Table 101-7, to add manual changeable copy on an existing ground sign. This is in the D3 MU zone, Ward 6. Is there somebody here to present this case?
Yes,
And
good,
Ms. Boras will be voting on this case.
good evening. My name is Peter March, New Hampshire Signs, 66 Gold Ledge Avenue, Auburn, New Hampshire. I'm here to present the case. I added a fairly lengthy narrative, which I'll try and abbreviate. If there's any questions that need to be added, I'm happy to add them. So this is the small gas stations on Main Street. It was formerly branded Gulf. Gulf is consolidating a lot of smaller gas stations where volume does not permit them to continue, and that was the case in this particular case. So the franchise was removed from the station, and it was turned into an unbranded site, Glidden Auto Services. It offers full-service gas as well as auto repair in a local downtown environment. The pumps were rebranded. The ID sign was re-imaged and electronic prices were added. We wish to add a manual reader board to the bottom of the sign to advertise non-petroleum related items such as service specials, for example, air conditioning in summer, wiper blades in winter. And the D3 MU district does not allow manual reader boards. So the current ground sign is non-conforming for several reasons. Setback, it did have an existing changeable copy up until about 3 months ago, price numbers. And the height of the sign is 16 foot high, where only 10 is allowed. So the sign would have been accorded protection under 674-19 of the New Hampshire State Code, but the deputy planning manager indicated the town's preference that we pursue a variance. So that's why we're here tonight. So to the 5 points that we have to prove, granting this variance would not be contrary to the public interest.
Say hi to your friends.
The zoning ordinance states, among other things, that the purpose of the sign regulations for the downtown area is to protect value and efficiency of operation surrounding properties, promote development opportunities, introduce uses that have a positive long-term social and economic impact, and to establish complementary and integrated working, shopping, and living environments. This site, I think, fulfills that. It's useful to have a local downtown gas station, downtown repair facility. And this site, in common with a lot of smaller sites, offers gas and repairs. Formerly, the Gulf marketing program, a very successful, large program, promoted the business. Since the operation does not have the benefit of Gulf marketing network anymore, promotion of the non-gas portion of the business is really important. I think the goals of the city vis-a-vis sites like this are to promote and support smaller local businesses, and allowing them to advertise in the way that we're asking, I think, fulfills that goal, and is therefore not contrary to the public interest. To the second point, the proposed use will observe the spirit of the ordinance. Zoning ordinance aims to ensure the success of businesses in town by allowing them adequate business identification, advertising, communication. This is a well-established small local business that competes with larger businesses like the Shell that's just down the road on Main Street. Change to this sign enhances that by allowing the operator to tailor his message to the seasons and to promote specials. Ironically, until recently, the sign did have changeable numbers in the price signs, the manual price signs. So the application ensures that the business does have adequate business identification, and as such upholds the spirit and goals of the sign ordinance. To the third point, substantial justice would be done to the property owner by allowing the variance. Allowing the station to present special offers in a variable format will ensure the success of the business. A lot of other local signs have local businesses have similar signs. For example, Wingstop, Walgreens, and Certified Auto also have manual readers. Promotion of specials is critical to this business. now that, as I said, the golf marketing dollars have been removed and this business is left on its own to compete. And it seems there's not a lot to be gained by not allowing this change where the benefits to the owner are so significant. To the fourth point, the proposed use will not diminish the value of surrounding properties. The effect on the neighborhood of adding a manual change is really minimal. There are several other businesses in the area with them, and the site is part of a general renovation. The site has been painted, dispensers have been added, been rebranded, and the ground sign has been upgraded with new faces and LED illumination. In general, the upgrades lift the area, and the upgrade will not diminish surrounding property values. It will enhance them instead. To the fifth point, literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. This site is unusual in that it offers two distinct offerings: gas, which is a consumable, and general service, which is a service. It's not unusual in this sort of gas station, but it's unusual in businesses in the area. Few other businesses offer both a consumable and a service that varies from season to season. The code renders the owner incapable of promoting specials, for example, a service offering as he wishes. The zoning ordinance interferes with the owner's reasonable use. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general purposes of the zoning ordinance and the specific restriction on this property. Again, it's a gas station that offers a multiplicity of services. It's a simple solution that mitigates some of the disadvantages the owner faces without the marketing power of golf. I suggest that there's no benefit to the public that would outweigh the hardship to the applicant if the variance was denied. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do any of the board members have questions for the applicant? Not seeing anybody. Okay. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Not seeing anybody speaking up. Okay. Is there anybody with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? And not seeing anybody here. Okay. So I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting, and reminder, Ms. Boras will be the voting member, voting alternate in this case. So we'll start with comments from the board. Mr. Shaw.
I'm generally in support of this application. I think it's as noted in the testimony by the applicant, there's some consistency with other nearby businesses, and I think I don't see any negative impact that this sign will have.
Thank you. Ms. Boras.
I'm also in support of the application and as stated by my colleague.
Mr. Minkara.
Yeah, I support the application. I think that changeable copy signs have really become customary for businesses of this nature. And so it's reasonably necessary for the conduct of the business. And I also note that there are a number of other businesses that have similar changeable copy signs in the area.
Thank you. Ms. McKay.
I too am in support of the application, and I concur with my colleagues' comments that have already been stated.
Mr. Boucher.
I'm in support of the application for the reasons already spoken to.
And I also support the application, noting that the size of the sign is not changing. It's just the changeable copy is being added to the existing sign. So is there somebody who would like to make a motion, please? Mr. Shaw, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion on behalf of 337 Main Realty. The applicant is New Hampshire Signs, Peter March, agent for Glidden Auto Service. And the address is 337 Main Street. The requested variance is from Land Use Code section 190-101, table 101-7 to add manual changeable copy on existing ground sign, and this is in the D3 MU zone. The variance is needed for the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property. In this case, there's really very little change. There's been existing signage at this location, at this same height and size, etc. And as the applicant noted, even originally, until very recently, the gas prices were actually changeable copy. That's switched to electronic, but the usage is a simple addition of the ability to have changeable copy on the sign, which is similar to multiple other businesses in the vicinity, and is something that will have significant benefit to the applicant to be able to have this capability. It is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. There's no indication of negative effects on property values for surrounding parcels. It's not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice will be served. And again, I move to approve this area variance.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. Boras, thank you for your second. Any discussion of the motion? Okay, we'll begin voting. Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Ms. McKay votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor.
Ms. Boras, how do you vote?
Ms. Boras votes in favor.
And I, Steve Lionel, vote in favor. Congratulations, that's 5-0. The variance has been approved. Please be aware there's a 30-day window of appeal. If you have questions, please contact the planning department.
Thank you for your time.
Case number 4. The owner is City of Nashua. Applicant is Stacy Hines. Address is 141 Ledge Street. Sheet 87, Lot 312, requesting the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-101, Table 101-7. First, to exceed maximum number of ground identification signs per premise, 1 permitted, 1 existing, 1 additional sign proposed for a total of 2 ground identification signs. And second, to exceed maximum area for ground identification signs, 12 square foot permitted, 24 square foot existing, an additional 16 square foot proposed for a total of 40 square feet. This is in the RB zone, Ward 4. Is there somebody here who is going to present the case?
Yes, Mr. Lionel.
Okay, Ms. Hines, you have the floor for 15 minutes.
Thank you very much. My name is Stacy Hines, and I am the Director of Communications for the Nashua School District. And the Nashua School District would very much like to install a road sign in front of the administrative offices at 141 Ledge Street. The lot of land shares 2 buildings. One is Ledge Street Elementary School, and the other is the Burrard Massey School Administration Building. And the Massey School Administration Building does have a sign attached to the building, but we were looking to put a sign roadside to make it a little bit easier for passersby or people who are visiting the school building to identify just what exactly the building is. And I think it would be a very nice it'll be very minimally designed sign. It's we're thinking 2 granite posts, and there would be no illumination and no removable lettering. So it would be a standalone stationary sign that would identify this building as the Nashua School District building.
Thank you. And I forgot to ask you, please give your contact address for the record.
Yes, Stacy Hines at 141 Ledge Street, Nashua School District Director of Communications.
Thank you. Does anybody from the board have questions for the applicant? Okay, not seeing anybody. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in favor of the application? Not seeing anybody. Is there anybody with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? And I don't see anybody speaking up. Okay, in that case, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting for comments from the board. Let's see, Ms. Boras, your comments.
I'm actually in support of the application as submitted. I think it was presented properly. I'm actually in support.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mankara.
I do support the application, but if I may, I do have a question for staff. If I could just ask, I mean, one of the things that one of the distinctions of this property is that effectively we have two uses on the lot. So my question for staff was, if this were two lots instead of one, would the variance be necessary?
Mr. Mankara, no, because each property would get its own separate ground sign. Just because there's two uses on the one lot, they're only allowed the one ground sign, so that's why they're here.
Right. So just to echo my earlier comment, I am supportive of the application, and I think what does make the property distinct is the fact that there are two uses. Though they're on the same property, they really are distinct uses. So I do support the application.
Thank you. Let's see. How did I do this? Ms. McKay, your comments?
I'm in support of the application. Sometimes it can be confusing whether you pull in, if you're going to go left or right, depending upon what you want, and if you go straight. So I fully support letting both buildings be clearly identified.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
I also support the application. Again, echoing Mr. Mankara's comments about it being two different uses on one lot, and what Mr. McKay said, it's going to be easier to identify that building. So I'm in support.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
I'm in support, and I agree with my colleagues. I think especially, I think it has been difficult for many folks to actually understand where this administration building is. And I think having this kind of signage will definitely help the public at large.
Thank you. And I also am in support. I know that in the past, I had a little bit of trouble figuring out where it was myself. So I'm in support of the application. Would somebody care to make a motion? Mr. Boucher, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion for the City of Nashua, owner Stacy Hines, applicant at 141 Ledge Street, sheet 87, lot 312, requesting the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-101, Table 101-7. To exceed maximum number of ground identification signs per premise, one permitted, one existing, one additional sign proposed for a total of 2 ground identification signs, and 2, to exceed maximum area for ground identification signs, 12 square feet permitted, 24 square feet existing, an additional 16 square feet proposed for a total of 40 square feet. It's in the RB zone, Ward 5. We find that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property given the special conditions of the property. Again, we spoke about the fact that there is 2 distinct uses on this property. Again, it is a relatively large piece of parcel. We find that the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. We find that it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We find it will not adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We find that it's not contrary to public interest, and we find that substantial justice would be served. So again, I make a motion to approve the area variance.
Thank you. And Mr. Shaw, thank you for your second. And Mr. Mankara will be voting on this case. Any discussion of the motion? None? Okay. Let's see. Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Ms. McKay votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor.
Mr. Mankara, how do you vote?
Mr. Mankara votes in favor.
And I, Mr. Lionel, also vote in favor. Congratulations. It's 5-0. Your variances have been approved. There is a 30-day window of appeal, as I keep saying. Please contact the planning department if you have questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what have we got here? Case number 5. Okay, we have case number 5. Just give me a moment here. I've got my stuff mixed up. Here we are. Okay. Owner Anne Marie Guilford and Stephen Kelly, address 56 Raleigh Drive, sheet B, lot 848, requesting the following variances from Land Use Code section 190-16, table 16-3. First, to encroach 6 feet 1 inch into the 10-foot required left side yard setback, and second, to encroach 1 foot 10 inches into the 30-foot required rear yard setback. Both request to construct an attached music room, partially enclosed rear deck and deck. This is in the R9 zone Ward 8. Ms. Boras will be the voting member on this case. Is there somebody here to present the case?
Yes, Anne Marie Gifford.
Okay, please, you have 15 minutes. Give your name and address, or you give your name. Please give your address for the record.
Absolutely. So Anne Marie Gifford, I live at 56 Raleigh Drive in Nashua. And my husband, Steve Kelly, and I own a 3-bedroom, single-story ranch with an unfinished walkout basement. And that's where the washer and dryer is currently located. At the time that my husband purchased this property in 2013, there was a sliding door off the back of the house from the kitchen that basically leads to a 10-foot drop to the ground. I have since built a safety railing to cover half of this door, but it's functional, but certainly not particularly appealing from the back of the house or the inside of the house. So what we are proposing is we'd like to add a partially enclosed deck off the back of the house. And that, as you said, would encroach about 1 foot 10 inches to the required 30-foot setback. And it would primarily be accessed from the kitchen slider. That back of the property abuts what I understand to be the former riverbed, which is now Old Maids Brook. So there are actually no rear neighbors for about 100 feet. So the rear neighbors are kind of up on a hill staring at our kitchen slider that leads to nowhere, but there's actually no one that is directly behind our property. Of note, both the butters on either side have back decks, and to the left of our house, they actually have the same, a very similar setback, encroaching into that 30-foot requirement about 2 feet. So that is the first request. The second is, in addition to the deck, we would like to add a room on the side of the house, which also would have a non-living space for a gear room. My husband is a professional musician, has been unable to work outside the home since the world closed down in March of last year. And it's not clear if he will be able to pursue his chosen profession anytime that we know of soon. So what we have been doing is currently once a week on Tuesday nights, unless you have a variance board meeting, we have a live stream from our kitchen. So what we are proposing is to add a music room for in-person one-on-one music instruction and also virtual instruction so that I can reclaim my kitchen and also basically the living space. Now, what that would do was also, because we are aging and we want single-story living, we would also move the washer and dryer and bathroom into that addition. As you can see on the screen, the house is angled a little bit, so the setback is not like a flat encroachment across the line. It's also important to note that our next door neighbors everyone has some version of the 3-bedroom ranch with either a side room, a 2-car garage, a 1-car garage, but our abutting neighbors do have a 2-car garage, and that currently encroaches on the 10-foot setback requirement. So what we're requesting is kind of in line with the neighborhood look and feel, in line with the setbacks variances that our neighbors have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. McCara.
So could you talk a little bit more about the gear storage area? Because if I'm looking at the plans correctly, it seems as though on that side setback, the music room itself would meet the side setback requirement. So I'm just kind of wondering about what the need is or the necessity is for the gear storage area.
Yeah, the reason for the gear storage area is currently on the property. You can see there's kind of a dotted line in the middle of that addition, and that's where there is an existing deck. You can see my addition of the little dot on the right. That is actually within the middle of what will be the addition. And when we remove that existing deck, that currently holds all the equipment that moves when Rareform plays at weddings and the 8-piece wedding band comes out. So in order to have, a crisp and clean look to the neighborhood, not having things, hanging out, stored in temporary storage, the idea of the gear storage is to be able to, when he is able to play out again, be able to open up the back of that minivan, come through the side gear storage. Everything that does not need to go into the music room stays in the gear storage, and the look from the road maintains kind of a clean front look of the house.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, not seeing any. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in favor of the application? I don't see anybody. Is there anybody with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Not seeing anybody, and I don't recall receiving any letters from anybody about it. Therefore, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. And again, Ms. Boras will be voting on this one. Excuse me. Let's see. Comments from the board. Mr. Boucher, any comments?
Yeah, I'm generally in support of the application. I appreciate the applicant's very detailed description of what they were doing, so I understand now more of why this is why they're looking for this this addition here. And again, as noted, if it wasn't for the gear storage, there would be no incursion on the left side. So I understand, again, more detail of what the reasons for that that incursion, for that length of incursion. For the rear setback, I have no issues with that. Again, as noted, there is quite some distance to the neighbors. I don't think this will impact anybody else, and would be really not noticeable for anybody looking at it. So I'm in general support of the application as presented.
Thank you. Ms. McKay.
Excuse me, I too am in support of the application for all of the aforementioned reasons by Mr. Boucher. And also I appreciate the fact that putting that gear shed in and trying to keep aesthetically correct, it benefits the neighborhood, and the applicant is correct. I'm sure the neighbors will greatly appreciate the consideration that has been taken for this design.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
I'm in support of the application also, and I concur with my colleagues.
Thank you. Ms. Boras.
I'm also in support of the application as submitted, and I concur with my colleagues.
Mr. Mankara.
I am in support of the back deck. I would note that the size of the deck is reasonable, that there is an irregular lot line, and there's really nobody behind it. I am struggling with the necessity, though, for the side setback. I think the incursion is substantial. The distance that it leaves of the 3.1 feet is pretty minimal, and it just seems as though that storage area could be accommodated otherwise.
Thank you. I am also in support of the application in general. Mr. Minkara, would you prefer that we vote on the variance request separately?
I mean, I don't know that that's necessary, given that I think the majority of the board does support the full application. So I don't know that we necessarily need to go through that step.
Okay, fine. Would somebody care to make a motion? Mr. Boucher, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the area variance for Anne Marie Gifford and Stephen D. Kelly, owners of 56 Raleigh Drive, Sheet B, Lot 848, requesting the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3, to encroach 6 feet 1 inch into the 10-foot required left side yard setback, and to encroach 1 foot 10 inch into the 30-foot required rear yard setback. Both requests to construct an attached music room, partially enclosed rear deck, and deck. It's in the R9 zone, Ward 8. We find that the variance is needed to enable applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property, and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. Again, there was a detailed description by the applicant on the use of the storage area and history on what the applicant's husband does for a living. And again, it was clear to us that this is a reasonable request. Again, the encouragement is it's not the full width of the home, it's just the 12 feet as designed in the application. So we find that to be reasonable. And again, the deck, again, we find that as a reasonable request, again, for the size of the deck and the minor incursion. We find that it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We find that it will not adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We find that it's not contrary to public interests, and we find that substantial justice would be served. So with that, again, I make a motion to approve the area variance.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw, I saw your hand first. Okay, for a second. Thank you. Any discussion of the motion? You ready, Ms. McKay?
I'm sorry, I'm writing. I'm trying to do two.
Yep. All right. We'll get to you last then. Okay.
No, it's fine. I'm voting in favor.
You're voting in favor? Okay. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor.
Ms. Boras, how do you vote?
Ms. Boras votes in favor.
And I also vote in favor. That's 5-0. Did I get this right? 1, 2, 3. I got everybody. Okay. 5-0. Your variances have been approved. Please be aware there's a 30-day window of appeal, and any questions, contact the planning department.
All right, thank you.
I can attest to the size of the gear area because half of my living room, guitars, amps, and everything else. So I know you need it.
Thank you.
Okay. Case number 6. Owner is Gabrielle Scott, address 41 Fairview Avenue, sheet 136, lot 125, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-192, subsection C, to exceed maximum driveway width 24 feet permitted, 42 feet existing, requesting to repave existing 42-foot wide driveway. This is in the R9 zone, Ward 6. Mr. Minkara will be voting on this case. Somebody here to present the case?
Yes, Gabrielle Scott, 41 Fairview Ave.
Okay, please proceed. Walk us through it.
Sure. I bought the house last year, and as you can see from that picture, the bottom of the driveway, half of it is concrete and half of it is paved. The bottom is all broken up, and there is a drain that you can sort of see there. The water pools there. It freezes in the winter. I see a lot of people walking up and down the street. It's honestly a big trip hazard. I don't want anybody to roll their ankle and or break anything by walking over that. It is quite deep. In the winter, obviously, it's breaking apart. Pieces just keep chipping everywhere. So I really just want to repave the existing driveway as it is, just go over with a new layer. And I think it will look better for the neighborhood, and it will be safer for everybody who walks.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Mr. Shaw, thank you.
So I guess I want to try to make sure I understand though. It appears that it's really only half the driveway that's really got the issue. Can you address that?
Correct, yes. The portion that's really bad is in front of the garage. I've gotten a quote. They plan to rip that up and just put new asphalt down. They would put a very thin coat over the existing just to make it all look the same. The other side, really, there's nothing wrong with it. They're not ripping that up. They're just going to put like a clean coat over it. So it just looks seamless.
And then I guess my other question is, I think that the primary issue that's before us is this is a pretty significant overage as far as what's normally allowed. And if you could speak to what the necessity is of maintaining a 42-foot wide driveway versus the allowed 24-foot?
Sure. I live here. My fiance also lives here who has a car. I have somebody else that lives here that has a car, so that's 3 cars. My fiance owns a business, so he has a van that is sometimes parked here. So we need a wider driveway. That's also one of the reasons that I purchased the home, because it had a wide driveway, not realizing that this was an issue when I had bought the home because it was existing. And I figured that, just paving the part that was an issue would fix it. And I wasn't aware of the 24-foot law that was in place.
And understanding that you've only owned the house for a year or so, do you have any insight though into really how long the extra wide driveway has been in existence?
I reached out to somebody in the town and they said it goes back to at least 2009. So I'm not sure when the homeowners before me did it. I honestly, it looks fairly old. There is asphalt under the concrete that's all broken up. So it's been there for a long time. I just don't know exactly how long.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Falk, did you have a comment?
We think early 2000s, probably 2004 on or abouts. That's our best guess.
Thank you.
Any other board members with questions? Okay. Has there been anybody to speak in favor of the application? Not seeing anybody. We do have a letter in opposition from a Stephen Martin. Is Mr. Martin present? No. I will read his letter into the record, and then I'll ask if anybody else wishes to speak in questions or opposition. This is from Stephen Martin. Let's see if he gives his, I don't see his address here. Oh, excuse me, 18 Carroll Street. I believe this application should be denied for the following reasons. First, referring to it as an existing driveway. There is no indication on the property card within the city records that this driveway was ever permitted. The fact that it exists at all is a violation and should not be rewarded with the premise it is existing. Second, the driveway abuts the adjacent property. During the winter, clearing and opening of 42 feet can create a large pile obstructing visibility and road clearance. The city stipulates snow should be removed in a manner that does not put it back into the street. According to the following ordinances, section 285, 28, and 1-12, There is a fine of up to $1,000 for this offense. Snow should also be only be moved within the owner's boundary. Third, variances by definition should only be granted when a property, through no fault of the owner, cannot support common usage enjoyed by others in close proximity. This property has a double wide driveway and 2-car garage, enough to park 5 or 6 vehicles. There are no distinguishing conditions from other properties to limit reasonable use. Last, a variance must not only be for the benefit of the applicant. I see no benefit to any other homeowner in the area having additional cars parked in full view of the street. Allowing additional parking would detract from the character of the neighborhood and diminish values of the surrounding homes. While the applicant may have assumed use of the additional space as part of the purchase, it does not give reason for it to be continued. As with any undocumented modification of property within the city, the buyer owner assumes all responsibility for it and must be held to the same compliance as would be applicable to new construction under the supervision of the city. In closing, I believe zoning exists to protect the continuity of neighborhood and community. Variances, especially from those visible from the outside, should only be granted under extreme hardships. Allowing one homeowner to add additional parking invites all to do the same and cannot be denied. Respectfully submitted, Stephen A. Martin, 18 Carroll Street, Nashua, New Hampshire. Is there anybody else present who wishes to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition? Not seeing anybody. Ms. Scott, you have 5 minutes to rebut Mr. Martin's comments, if you wish.
Sure. I'm not planning on parking any extra cars there. I'm not making it any bigger. I'm just trying to fix the broken parts. I mean, there's a drain at the end of my driveway. All of the water pools up in my driveway, causing, in the wintertime, there was a huge ice dam there, and anybody that walked by could have slipped and fallen. And I'm not sure technically how much of the town is owned on my property, but I don't know if somebody gets hurt, is that they're suing me or they're suing the town. I mean, I'm just trying to fix something that is essentially broken. I mean, I wasn't the person that did the driveway like that. I don't know if they knew. I can't speak for them, honestly. I don't really know.
Thank you. What arrangements have you made for snow removal?
We have a snow blower and we push all of the snow goes into the back of our yard.
Thank you. Last call for question. No, I guess we did that already. Okay, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Ms. McKay, any comments?
I guess I'm of two schools of thought. One, it is a great deal wider. It's 18 feet wider than a typical driveway. So that's concerning. I understand that the owner bought the property and made an assumption that that's how the driveway was, but assuming is not always a good thing. And so right now, I don't know which way I want to go. I think I'm going to listen to what my other colleagues have to say, because right now I'm more leaning no than I'm leaning yes.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
I'll start off by saying that I'm going to support the application, and I'll tell you why. First of all, I know this property because that's one of my walking routes that I walk, and down Fairview Ave is exactly that neighborhood. So I'm familiar with that driveway and property. Again, applicants asking to, they're really looking to obviously fix the crumbling cement part over the asphalt part. And by, again, skimming over what's existing there, again, trying to make a uniform look and make it look well. So I find that, again, it's not the applicant, and I know that it's maybe previous owner that might have done something not there, but it's been existing. I didn't hear, or we didn't hear anything from staff or from anybody that there's been a problem at this address over the years. So again, an existing driveway that has been there and obviously has worked fine in the neighborhood, I guess is the only way to put it. I don't see the benefit by denying the application on the extra width. I don't see what the benefit would be at this point. Again, for an existing driveway, and what's being done on the rest of the driveway to me is just more of aesthetics than actually adding driveway or adding what's already existing. So for the safety reasons, I didn't notice. I know what the applicant's talking about as far as the issues with the drainage in the street, but again, for safety reasons, for aesthetics, and again, I think the new driveway will definitely, if anything, would add value to the neighborhood and wouldn't detract. And I don't see, again, the benefit of denying the application.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
I had some of the similar struggles as Ms. McKay, and I'd still, I want to hear everybody else as well, but I think I'm more inclined to support, especially with the fact that this has been in existence for as long as it has and has not been raised as an issue previously. So in that sense, I do think I tend to agree more with Mr. Boucher, but so again, I'd also like to see what the rest of our colleagues have to say as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Boras.
I'm actually in support of the application, and I concur for the same reasons stated by J.P. Boucher.
Thank you. Mr. Minkara.
I really struggle with this one. I at this point don't support the application. I think that I do appreciate that the current owners didn't create the situation. That's true. Could be true for a number of zoning violations. I think the exceedance is simply too great. I think it's out of character with the neighborhood. There are some larger, wide driveways in the neighborhood, none that I could see that are this wide, and it significantly, I think, exceeds most of what I see in the area. I heard nothing to suggest that there's anything unique about the property, nor that there is any particularly compelling need in terms of the use that would warrant a driveway that size. The argument is that a significant expansion to the driveway was undertaken in violation of the city's ordinances, and that therefore that should be allowed to remain. And for me, I struggle with that. Also, that it does abut the lot line is concerning to me as well. Again, I appreciate that this was not a situation that was created by the current owner, but I still struggle to see that it meets the criteria for granting a variance.
Thank you. I also struggle with this. I did notice some other properties in the area that had wide driveways approximating this, and I'm reluctant to sort of say, well, let's, it was done in the past, and what can be done about it. But I think the alternative is, okay, if we don't grant the variance, what happens now? The applicant would have to tear up part of the driveway, and it's not clear to me that that's really the right thing to do. So, I do appreciate the other board members' positions on this. I'm sort of leaning in support, but it's difficult. Mr. Boucher.
Can I ask a question of Mr. Falk, please?
Yeah.
Mr. Falk, if this application were denied, this application is to repave the driveway. So if this is denied, right, would it go back just to exactly what the use has been? Is there any stipulation? There's nothing here, or is there something that says that they would have to rip up the driveway, or would it just be the fact that they're not allowed to repave the driveway and it just stays in the state that it's been in?
I'm not sure of code enforcement's role, whether they would go out there and enforce and make them tear up the extra 18 feet. The applicant could pave a 24-foot wide driveway tomorrow if they so choose, just with a simple permit from DPW. It's just the extra 18 feet. So I can't answer for what code enforcement would do on this, but that's really up to them.
So
In the past, it all depends on. I really can't answer. I'm sorry. It's just going to depend on code enforcement. I don't think our staff is going to tell code enforcement that there has to be an action to tear up this extra 18 feet of the driveway that's been there for maybe close to 20 years.
So just to clarify, you're saying that they could go ahead at this point and repave 24 feet wide of that existing driveway and leave what's existing there?
I suppose they could. And everybody's allowed a 24-foot wide driveway by right. So, they could do that. It's really not up to me what happens to the other part of it. It's existing. It's been existing for a while. I or our staff is probably not going to go running down to code enforcement and make them tear that up.
Right. Okay. So, thank you, Mr. Falk. I guess, again, my comments would be that, echoing what Mr. Falk says, I guess I would see the likelihood that if we deny this application, there would be any enforcement on the existing property. I don't see that really as, it's a possibility, but I don't think it's a strong possibility. And again, I would rather see that improvement made to the driveway, for the applicant is willing to do that to the whole driveway, so that, again, aesthetically it looks better than it is now, functionally better. So that's my position. I guess if the applicant actually went and did 24 feet wide, I guess they could always try to blend that in to the existing and then go over it with some of that driveway sealer to make it all look the same. So in the end, would it all be the same? Again, I know we have different positions on what's existing and what happened. Again, I don't, this is something that's been existing since the early 2000s, as, testified by the city planning department. So again, I don't see, just to reiterate, I don't see the benefit by denying the application. Thank you.
Any other board comments at this point? Somebody care to make a motion? Mr. Boucher, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the area variance for Gabriel Scott, owner of 41 Fairview Avenue, sheet 136, lot 125, requesting a variance from Land Use Code Section 190, 192, Section C, to exceed the maximum driveway width 24 feet permitted, 42 feet existing, requesting to repave existing 42 feet wide driveway. It's in R9 zone, Ward 6. We find that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property, and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. Again, the applicant is looking to completely rip up and replace the section of driveway that's covered by the cement portion, and in doing so, wants to then just continue with a skim coat for the aesthetically looking evenness, coat the rest of the existing driveway as is today. We find that it isn't within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We find that it won't adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We find that it's not contrary to public interest. We find that substantial justice will be served. So again, I make a motion to approve the area variance.
Mr. Shaw, thank you for your second. Any discussion of the motion? And Mr. Mancaro will be voting on this motion. Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Well, even in still all of this, I'm going to have to vote no.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor.
Mr. Minkara, how do you vote?
Mr. Minkara votes no.
And I, Mr. Lionel, I vote in favor. That's 3-2. Ms. McKay and Mr. Minkara voting no. But that means that the variance is approved. There is a 30-day window of appeal. Please contact the planning department if you have any questions. Move on to case number 7.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Courier has joined us, so I don't know if you're aware of that yet.
I was not aware of that. Let's see. Do I see his name?
746.
Oh, there he is. Okay. Jack Courier. Okay. So Mr. Jack Courier has joined us. So he is the 5th full board member. So the alternates will not be voting on future cases, but of course they will fully participate in discussions. Ms. McKay, are you willing to continue serving as clerk for the remaining cases?
Well, I would gladly defer to Mr. Courier as the actual clerk, or do whatever is, the correct procedure to do. But I don't have any problem with letting the clerk be the clerk.
Mr. Courier, what's your pleasure on that?
Had communicated with Ms. McKay. I was planning on taking it over since I'm here.
Okay, that's fine. And just to go back to our initial thing, is there anybody in the room with you?
No, I'm the only one here. Thank you for asking that and clarifying.
Okay. So we'll move on to case number 7. Owner is John D. Cook. Address is 14 Cliff Road, Sheet B, Lot 1822. Requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3, to encroach 5.5 feet into the 30-foot required rear yard setback to construct an attached 16-foot by 25-foot addition with garage on basement level and bedroom and bath on first floor. This is the R9 zone, Ward 9. Is there somebody to present the case?
Yes, I'm Mr. Cook.
And Mrs. Cook.
Okay, and please give your address for the record.
14 Cliff Road, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03062.
Okay, please walk us through your application.
Okay. What we're basically showing here is the green square is the existing footprint of the house. The orange square off to the right is the addition, the proposed addition. That is basically the same dimensions as the house, just making the house 16 feet longer than it already is. There will be a garage on the first floor and a master bedroom and master bath on the upstairs. So this is basically going to make the house look the same as it is now, just slightly larger. The reason that we need the variance is because when the house was built, the distance between the house and the property line was 25 feet. It has since been extended to 30 feet. So the other reason that we need the variance is if you could scroll down to the photograph of the red vehicle. Okay, that's our front driveway. And as you can see to the left there, the land slopes down rather steeply. That's actually a 12-degree incline. So if we were to build 5 feet forward of where we are now with the addition, there would be no level space at the top of the hill for parking cars or for, safely exiting and entering vehicles at the top of the hill. So that's the other reason why we need the variance. The other reason is it just keeps the house straight, makes it look the same as it is now. So I actually got out and measured
It is in fact a 12-degree slope, and I can see there in that red arrow that I drew there. The land slopes rather steeply in our front yard. So that's why the house is pushed back in the yard as far as it is.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board? Not seeing anybody. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of the application? No? Okay. Anybody with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? And not seeing that either. So I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Courier, your comments.
I'm in support of this application. I think there is a unique and special condition on this property, which is the slope. I think the house was built at a reasonable position on the property, but it's still got a challenged driveway. And, if you were to pull this addition forward, so to speak, it would make the driveway really impossible. If there was, say, a very large backyard, it would almost make sense to kick the addition back several feet to make for a more usable driveway. But I don't find the encroachment in the back to be problematic. There's a lot of slope in the back, and the backyard neighbor is like up on a hill, and it's not going to be, I think, very visible or a big deal at all. So I think there's a special condition on the land, and the application, I think, stands on its own merit, and it has my support.
Thank you. Ms. Boras, do you have any comments?
Actually, I don't have any other comments other than what my colleague just stated.
Thank you. Mr. Minkara.
I do support the application. I would just also note that the house is built at somewhat of an angle. If it were more parallel to the street, the variance might not have been required. I think the additional garage use and master bedroom above are also reasonable uses. So I support the application.
Thank you. Ms. McKay.
I too am in support of the application. The position of the house, the whole topography of the where the house sits and how the land is, I think it's a very wise decision. The encroachment seems almost necessary, and I fully support this. It's probably even a good safety issue, so that cars' brakes won't let go and that car won't go backwards down the driveway. So I fully support the application.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
I'll support the application for the reasons already spoken to.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
Likewise, I support the application and don't have anything else to add beyond what my colleagues have already said.
And I am the same. I support the application and don't have any further comments. Would somebody care to make a motion? Mr. Boucher, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the area variance for John D. Cook, owner of 14 Cliff Road, Sheet B, Lot 1822, requesting the variance from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3 to encroach 5.5 feet into the 30-foot required rear yard setback to construct an attached 16 by 25 addition with garage on basement level and bedroom and bath on first floor. It's in the R9 zone, Ward 9. We find that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property, and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. Again, very clear that there is the special condition on property is there's a topography that has a 12% grade as testified by the applicant to the home. The home is at an angle. And again, the house was set back when it was originally constructed, probably to minimize some of that and give a flat area when approaching the home. Again, the incursion on the rear of the property, again, we find that to be minimal and acceptable. We find that that it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We find that it will not adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We find that it's not contrary to public interest. We find that substantial justice will be served. So again, I make a motion to approve the area variance.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Shaw, thank you. Any discussion of the motion? Okay. Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Ms. McKay votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
And I, Mr. Lionel, also vote in favor. So congratulations. That's 5-0. Your variance is approved. Please be aware that there's a 30-day window of appeal. Please contact the planning department if you have any questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to take a break, 10-minute break. We'll rejoin at 8:06 p.m. Okay, case number 8. Owner is Mehmet I'm trying to read this. I'm sorry.
Atlee.
Atlee. Okay, thank you. Applicant Latif Atlee, address 141 Amherst Street, sheet 60, lot 6, requesting the following. Use variance from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Item 15, to allow a 3-family building by connecting existing detached garage to house and converting it into a dwelling unit, and the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3, for minimum lot area, 21,780 square foot required, 10,972 square feet existing, and 3, to allow rear yard setback of 7 foot 6 inches where 25 feet is required, necessitated by connecting detached accessory garage to principal structure. This is in the RA zone, Ward 2. Mr. Atlee, you are welcome to present your case.
Hey, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi.
Please give your address also for the record.
Yes, I'm a resident of 141 Amherst Street, Nashua. And we own this house for 31 years now, and I lived 31 years in this house. It's a multi-unit house. It was always a family home, and as current, me and my wife and my 2 little boys, we live downstairs, and my brother, who used to live with my mom upstairs, who recently just passed away, and he lives upstairs by himself at the moment. And I have a sister, older sister, who used to live with my brother and my mom upstairs. My nephew passed away 5 years ago, which depressed my sister, and who decided to move away, and she resides in New Jersey at the moment. But she had some job issues because of the pandemic, so she recently decided to move back because she can't afford to live in New Jersey anymore. So we, as siblings, came up with a plan for her to move back, and instead of her moving back with my brother upstairs, we have a 2-car garage detached that is not being used at all. All we use it for just junk stuff or storage, whatever it is. And we decided to just attach it to the existing house. And there's, I believe there's a 10 feet gap between the house and the garage, and just make a use out of it and just make it a 1-bedroom apartment or 1 studio, something like that. Not trying to make it into a paradise, just trying to make it a nice, livable space. And that was the entire plan. And that's why we applied, and we wanted to see how we could get a permit. And that's where I am right now. That's where we're standing right now. And I did send you guys the plan, what it's going to look like before and after and inside. So those are the drawings that actually my wife did. And that's where we're standing. Yeah.
Thank you. Very nice drawings.
Thank
Any
you.
any questions from the board? Mr. Courier.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like the driveway, it looks like it might be serving some homes behind it. I didn't know, is that a street or a driveway, or who owns it, or is there an easement, or what is the situation with that driveway that leads to the garage and beyond?
Yes, there is a driveway that we share with the house behind us. There's also a
Did you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah. We can hear you,
Yeah.
Mr. Atley. And Mr. Courier, your voice kind of went in and out. But I think Mr. Atley heard the question.
Oh,
Yes, I did. So we do have a driveway that we share with the multi-unit house that is right behind us. And but I don't think that will yes, exactly where you're pointing at right now. And I don't think it will change anything with that because we don't park in the garage anyway. So we literally park when we have visitors and everything. You could easily park 6 to 7 cars in front of my house and the garage and the empty space between the garage and the house. So there's plenty of space there. And before I even sent the application in, I have 3 neighbors, one to my left and right and the one in the back. So I talked to them. I have very good relationships with those neighbors and they were all okay with it. And I believe they did send you guys an email saying that they were okay with that as well. So
We have some, let's see, I saw one letter. If I can find it here. Oh, that's not the right
They're in
one.
the packet.
Oh, they are in the packet. Oh, yes. Okay. Very good. I knew I'd seen it somewhere. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We have one from Mackenzie at 139.5. Oh, okay. Yeah, we have 3 at 141.5 and 143. So we have 3 letters in support. Any other board members with questions? Mr. McCara.
I could probably do the math, but what's the square footage of the proposed unit?
the multi-unit part or the garage part?
The part, the 1-bedroom apartment that you're looking to add in the garage.
I believe it's 625.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, and one more thing with the extension part, with the gap between the house and the garage, I believe that will be another 170 square footage.
Mr. Courier, did you get your question answered?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other board members with questions? Mr. Shaw.
I apologize if I missed this earlier. The 2 units that you have for the main part of the structure, they are existing already. How many bedrooms are each of those?
Downstairs, it is a 2-bedroom, and upstairs is 3-bedroom.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Mr. Courier.
Yeah, I'm sorry, another question. Actually, it's for Mr. Falk. On the rear yard.
Lost you.
Mr. Courier, we've lost your voice. There's got maybe some network problems.
Existing structure currently at 7 feet 6 inches carry.
We had trouble hearing you, Mr. Courier.
Yeah, I heard a little bit, but you sounded like we couldn't hear it. But I know you mentioned something about a 7-foot 6-inch setback. The garage is not being made bigger. It's just connecting from the garage to the actual two-family. So the setback is going to remain. It was a accessory structure. Now it's going to be part of the principal structure. So it would have to meet the principal structure setbacks. That's why they need the variance for that. I'm not sure if that's
let me just try again if you could hear me.
it's better.
Is the existing house also at 7 feet 6 inches, or is that meet the 25 feet?
Well, the house, do you mean in the rear or the front?
In the rear, yeah.
I believe it does.
Okay.
Because the garage is about 32 or 34 feet wide, and there's a 7-foot setback, so they're about 40 something feet.
Okay.
I guess you can confirm that. It looks like that's what it is.
I'm sorry. I was thinking the front of the house was as you look at it from the driveway, but it's really on Amherst Street. So now I see that. So I've answered my own question, but thank you. Yep.
Any other board members with questions? No, not seeing any. Anybody present wishing to speak in favor of the application? We did get 3 letters in support from neighbors. Let's see. We have one from John McKenzie at 139.5 Amherst Street. Says we are okay with the construction that is going to happen at 141 Amherst Street. We have one from Yoemi de la Cruz at 141.5 Amherst Street. Wanted to let you know we are okay with construction that is going to happen at 141 Amherst Street. And then we have from Lori Wilkins at 143 Amherst Street. And she is also okay with what's going to happen. So we have 3 neighbors who have said they support the application. Is there anybody present with questions, concerns, or opposition to the application? Not seeing anybody. In that case, I will close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Shaw, any comments?
I guess I'm kind of mixed on this one. I'm kind of still struggling a bit with just the intensity of the use, and I'd like to hear what my colleagues have to say.
Thank you. Mr. Courier.
Well, I guess where I'm at this moment is, and hopefully you can hear me okay. I did switch a network, so hopefully you're hearing me okay. I'm struggling to find, the hardship on the land. I mean, the evidence I see is that it's perfectly suited as the structure as it is now. I regret the kind of continued and persistent hardship that the applicant has had here over the last few years. And my heart goes out to him and his family for the continued series of struggles. I hope that just turns around for the applicant. But I believe this application is, I'm seeing that the personal hardship, which is a terrible thing, but it's not the criteria for a variance of this intense use. I mean, I was thinking I could get my head around like the rear yard setback if the house were to be, if an owner wanted to, make a bigger use of the house and perhaps attach it. But for the 3-family dwelling and the minimum lot area is so small. I mean, granted, the applicant has been here for a long time, 31 years, but I'm struggling to find the hardship. And so maybe somebody can convince me otherwise, but that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Ms. Boras.
I'm also struggling with this application. I would like to hear what my other colleagues have to say.
Ms. Mankara.
And I guess I'd say I'm struggling as well. I appreciate what the applicant's trying to do, and trying to support your family and accommodate everybody in the property, I think is great. I do note that there are other multifamilies that are of high density, certainly non-conforming in the neighborhood. And I also think it's notable that the most, for the most impacted properties, they've been supportive. I don't have a problem with the setback because it's an existing structure, so there's really no change there. But the use variance aspect of it, I'm struggling with, as well as the significance of the density increase of the lot size request. So I'm struggling to get there much as I want to.
Thank you. Ms. McKay.
Okay, well, I guess I'm I'm right in line with everybody else. I'm struggling between the personal hardship, which everybody's heart goes out to because that it's just difficult. But again, so much overage and for the lot area, and that causes me questions. So I'm just struggling. I find this one to be very difficult, Steve. I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Boucher.
Also in a familiar situation with this application. Again, I don't have a problem with the setback. It's just the use. The only way, the only way I've been thinking about it or how to get there would be, again, what's unique about this property, if I were to look at it in a positive perspective, would be the fact that again, as noted before, you got the direct abutters who are affected are in support of the application, and then in total, when you look at this home surrounded with those properties and the size of the properties together all around it, maybe the use in that respect would not be, really egregious. But again, if you're looking at just this particular lot, again, that's where the struggle comes in too. So I'm not there yet.
Thank you.
Right here.
And like my colleagues, I find the use variance and the density to be difficult to support. I mean, one of the things when people come to us for variances is we need to find some special condition of the property that that makes this a reasonable use, and turning a perfectly good existing garage into another apartment seems a little bit off. Now, my understanding is, Mr. Falk, perhaps you can help with this. This being a two-family, that was a variance granted at some point in the past?
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, I guess it does it meet the area requirements for a two-family? I didn't do that calculation.
They did get a, hold on.
$10,972 square feet, and 7,260 square feet required per unit in the RA zone. Be something like 14 and change required.
Okay, so it was all right. Yeah,
We got a variance for the area, the two-family. There's a special exception for the use and a variance for the area for the two-family.
I see. Yeah.
Thanks, Kate.
It makes me reluctant to approve even a higher, for higher density use. So we have two variances before us. And what I'm seeing is that the board doesn't have a problem with the setbacks, but does have a problem with the use variance and the area variance. Suggestions from the board for how we're going to deal with this? Mr. Mankara. You're muted, Jay.
Carter could correct me if I'm wrong, but there would be no reason to address the setback variance if the use variance were not to be granted. Otherwise, it's simply the existing garage, which doesn't require a variance.
Correct.
Okay. So let's see, we have a use variance and we have these area variances. So let's, how about we vote on the use variance first? And I gather that the sense of the board is to deny the use variance. So I suggest that we make a motion to that regard and see where it goes. Would somebody like to make a motion? Mr. Shaw, thank you.
Okay, again, I'll make a motion on behalf of owner Mehmet Akif Atli, applicant Latif Atli, 141 Amherst Street, sheet 60, lot 6. And this is for the use variance from Land Use Code section 190-15, table 15-1, number 15, to allow a 3-family building by connecting existing detached garage to house and converting it into a dwelling unit. The board does not find that there is a need for the applicant's proposed use of the property, at least as far as a special condition of the property, while the board especially appreciates the difficulties and the personal hardships that this family has endured and is trying to deal with. The variance really needs to follow the property itself and some special condition of the property, and the board does not feel that that has been met. There's already been a area variance, special exception regarding the 2-family unit dwelling usage for the property, and since that intensity is already more than what would normally be allowed. So it's not within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. There has been no specific discussion about property value effects on surrounding parcels, and it's not clear that there would be any significant one way or the other. It would be contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would not be served to grant this use variance. So for those reasons, I make a motion to deny the use variance.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Courier, thank you for your second. Any discussion of the motion? Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Voting.
I'm going to vote yes to deny.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor of the denial.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor of the denial.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor of the denial.
And I, Mr. Lionel, also vote in favor of the denial. I'm sorry, your use variance, Mr. Atley, your use variance was denied. At this point, I don't see the point of addressing the area variances. Mr. Falk, do you think it's necessary to do that?
I think it would be a good idea to address them.
Cleaner.
Just
Yeah,
to
it would be
clean a
clean.
record.
Okay.
Take 2 and 3 together. They're both dimensional related variances.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Lionel?
Yeah.
First, I'm willing to make those motions, but I do think the fact that at least if we make take the action, we state explicitly, which I will do in my motion, I believe, is to just note that they're not really applicable without the approved use variance. So that's how I would frame the motion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Go right ahead.
I'd like to offer up a motion on behalf of owner Mehmet Akif Atli, applicant Latif Atli, at 141 Amherst Street, and these will be for 2 area variances. The first being relief from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3, for minimum lot area where 21,780 square feet is required. 10,972 square feet are existing. And secondly, to allow rear yard setback of 7 feet 6 inches where 25 feet is required. These were believed to be necessitated by connecting the proposal to connect a detached accessory garage to the principal structure, and this is in the RA zone. The board does not see that these area variance requests are applicable or appropriate, in that they will only apply if the use variance were granted regarding the conversion of the garage structure to a dwelling unit. It's basically, these aren't needed for the applicant's proposed use of the property, in that there will not be the supporting use variance to allow for this condition to proceed. So therefore, it's not within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. It will not adversely affect there's no evidence, again, I think, as far as property values, or there would be no impact because in this case, it would not be carried upon. It would be contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would not be served. So I move to deny these 2 area variances.
Thank you. Do I have a second, Mr. Courier? Thank you for your second. Any discussion of the motion? Okay. Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Ms. McKay votes yes to the denial.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor of the denial.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor of the denial.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor of the denial.
And I, Mr. Lionel, also vote in favor of the denial. Sorry, your area variances were not granted. You do have the ability to request a rehearing within 30 days. Make that request. You can contact the city planning department if you have questions or comments. Sorry. Okay. Case number 9. Owner, John J. Flatley Company, doing business as John Flatley Company. Address is 200 Innovative Way. Sheet A, lot 798, requesting use variance from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Item 15, to allow the construction of 266 multifamily dwelling units in one 5-story building with parking garage under and 28 townhomes located in 7 4-unit buildings. This is in the Park Industrial Zone, Ward 8. Do we have somebody to present this case?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Mr. Prunier, give your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. members of the board. My name is Gerald Prunier. I'm an attorney with offices at 20 Trafalgar Square in Nashua. With me this evening is John Flatley and Kevin Walker from the Flatley Company, Jason Plood from the Vanessa Hagen, and Mark Fougere of Fougere Association. The location of this property is in South Nashua. It's located off Research Drive. As you can see, Research Drive is between the townhouses and the multifamily unit that we're talking about. And on top of that is the Terra Heights, which is the also a multifamily development of about 556 units that abut the townhouses and this lot. As it has been reported in the press, Nashua is facing a housing shortage, and it has been recorded that that housing shortage, is so high that it is less than 1%, and that housing is in general is needed in the Nashua area. So much so that some employers or some companies have been reported not to come to Nashua because of the fact that there are no employees to be housed, being able to be housed in the area. We need more housing. There are few and probably no other areas in Nashua that can provide the housing size that is being suggested here this evening. The proposal is to construct 266 multi-units along with 28 townhouses. Pictures of them are being shown at the present time. Thank you, Kay. The total parking that's being provided is 460 spaces, and with parking under the proposed multifamily 5-story unit. The area as well provides for much recreational. There's walking trails, tennis courts, baseball, soccer, and lacrosse fields, bocce courts, putting green, swimming pool, outdoor kitchen, paved stone patios with tables and benches. It's an area that not only will provide the housing, but provides the recreational area. There's an open space galore with this development. There's in the area, there are at the bottom of coming up Spitbrook Road and so forth, there are many other multifamily units. The area in general has multifamily units. The topography for this particular area lends itself to the construction of the 5-story units in that particular area. If you have any questions, we will be glad to ask them, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Members of the board with questions for the applicant? Mr. Mancara.
Apologize. I wonder if the applicant could address the 5 points of law.
Okay, the 5 points of law, excuse me. Yeah, the first point is regarding the special conditions that between public use and private use. In this particular area, we're providing much public use because of the housing conditions in the city of Nashua at the present time. The area is mixed. There are all types of uses, from hotels, residential housing, as well as light industrial. But if you take and do the whole area, a predominance of the area, I believe, is multifamily. And this is necessary for the public interest, as has been reported in the press and by the mayor as well. The area surrounding this particular section has many apartments. Fact is, there is an apartment, as I indicated, Tara Heights, with 556 units just to the north. As far as the substantial justice being done with the number of multifamily units in the surrounding area, it makes sense with the need that is needed now in the city with the public interest to provide multifamily units. And as I indicated, much of the area surrounding this particular lot has multifamily housing in that group. As far as diminishing surrounding values, most of the area surrounding is owned by the applicant, John Flatley. So he's not intending to diminish any of the surrounding values. Fact is, he's trying to increase the values with new construction. As far as the special conditions are concerned, the topography in the area itself lends itself to residence use. As I indicated, there is some reluctancy of businesses moving to this particular area because of the fact that the labor force doesn't have a place to live. Have any other questions?
Mr. Shaw, did you have questions?
Yeah, I guess, Attorney Pernier, I'm still not clear on what the justification is, why this cannot be used as the zoned park industrial that the property is.
Well, it's probably, again, the chicken and the egg. As I've indicated, people and companies are not moving up here because of the fact that they don't have employees available to them or places where the employees can live if they came up here. We've got less than 1% vacancy rate. There's no place for them to live, so why are they going to come here?
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Attorney Pernier, I used to work at the one of the buildings in that complex. My understanding is that Flatley companies have been proposing development of the particular area for more business buildings, and have been working with the city for a number of years on that. Is there? I'm struggling with the notion that a use variance is the appropriate situation for this. Why has Flatley not approached the Board of Aldermen to see whether perhaps rezoning this parcel would make more sense?
Mr. Chairman, we have been trying for over 2.5 years to get this parcel rezoned. We've had exchange of agreements multiple times. It's now at the point where we feel like we're talking to ourselves. And we have, after this long of a period of time, after this many years, we felt we had to move ahead because this was the need of the city. For the benefit of the city, we moved ahead. We have over 100 acres to the north that's vacant, that's all park industrial. We intend to develop that park industrial, but we got to get companies to come to Nashua. And unless we get them to come, the land will stay vacant. We've tried to move with the city, and I don't think this is the place to discuss the situations are, but to just tell you that we have moved and we have talked to the city. The Flatley company has been here, the family, for at least the 50 years plus that I've been here. And they've always worked with the city. I've represented them for 45 of those plus 50 years. And they've always worked with the city, wanted to work with the city, have done well in the city of Nashua, and the city of Nashua has done well off of them. We want to work.
And so you're saying that the Flatley has asked the alderman to rezone this for residential use?
No, for mixed use, a part of which would be residential.
Let me see. Any other board members with questions for the applicant? No. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak in favor of the application? No. I know we have several letters of opposition to the application. Is there anybody present who wishes to speak on their own in opposition? Okay, I see Ms. O'Toole. Please give your name and address for the record.
It's Megan O'Toole, 33 Digital Drive, apartment 406 inside Terra Heights. I can actually see the townhouses being built from my window. My concerns are affordable housing. City of Nashua does need more housing. That is apparent. This area is a very small area. My concerns are traffic. Bringing that many vehicles potentially to this area, how is that going to affect traffic patterns? Also, the environmental impact that we'll have. There are wetlands on Terra Heights property. There are animals in this area, anything from deer to bears to bunnies. What's the impact on the animals and the environmental impact? Timeline. This has been going on building for quite some time. They've also mentioned mixed use. I've noticed Construction Journal, a proposal for storage units. So if we make a variance for this, how is that going to make variances down the line for future things like storage units? So those are some of my questions, concerns, ideas, thoughts as being a resident who has felt the explosions from them blasting over the past about 6 months and hearing the construction and the boulders being moved daily. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The applicant will have a chance to respond to your questions later. I see Mr. Samuel has a hand raised. Thank you for using that feature. Floor is yours. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Hi, I'm Ebenezer. So this is my first time joining the meeting. So pardon me if I misspeak or if I make a mistake.
Please give your address for the record.
Sure. So I live at 36 Spencer Drive in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Okay.
We moved here in 2014, early 2014, when we found we basically moved here for mostly because the Bicentennial School District, and a few years later, I've seen that the school, my child was not able to get into the school because the school was already full, so she had to go to a different school, and I just wanted to see if this proposed building would it come under Bicentennial School District. That's one. And the second thing is my house is diagonally. I can basically see Terra Heights, the building from my window or from my garage if I come outside, right? So there's no property between mine and that. And there used to be a lot of wildlife when I first moved in. And the first few years started slowly diminishing, and I asked around people, and they told me that that's because they're building a lot of apartments in the other area. I think they're cutting down trees there, so the wildlife is going away as well. And the last thing is, the third thing is also traffic. So there has been a lot of talk around my neighborhood that they're going to open up the road from Shakespeare directly into digital. That's going to crowd the spaces with traffic. So I don't know if I can show this, but Shakespeare ends on a trail, and that directly connects to the corner of a digital drive, right? I think that's where this is being proposed, or somewhere around that's where this building is proposed. The fear that a lot of people have here is that they would open up the trail and into a road, and that's going to cause a lot of traffic into the residential area that we live in currently. And lastly, I got this thought from a question that one of the board member asked. So the zoning and the alderman, right? So there must be a reason why that was not approved, right? When they're trying to rezone it to a mixed use or even a residential use, there must be a reason why there's been a pushback for 2.5 years from what the attorney said. So I think with all that into consideration, I'd like to oppose this proposal.
Thank you. Anybody else present who wishes to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition? I'm not hearing anybody. It's not seeing hands raised. I see several people are present.
Hand raised, two of them, John Sepidis and Patty Tufo.
Yeah, and now I see somebody named Harry with the using the Zoom hand raise. Okay, we'll start with the box that's labeled John Sepidis. You're muted, please. You need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I
Please
am
give your
Elizabeth. I am
name
Elizabeth.
and address, please.
16 Shakespeare Road.
Okay.
We are abutters to Flatley. And we have to say they have never been honest with us, especially with the blasting. My question is, our alderman, Marianne Melizigoya, I'm sorry, has suggested they come up with a new plan that they will not require any more adjustments, zoning or otherwise, because what they've already asked for, 20? Have they done that yet? Have they come up with a plan for their development, which abuts us? And we understand what's going on with Spencer and Chaucer, a quiet neighborhood that this affects. Could they please respond to that?
Thank you. Okay, Patty Tufo, give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Patty Tufo. I live at 11 Chaucer Road. We just moved up here 2 years ago out of Massachusetts to get away from the city, to get more into the country. Nashua fit the bill because we could be in the country, but yet,
Video. Okay.
I'm sorry. So we loved it up here because you could be near the country, but yet near the city. I guess I don't understand what they're saying about, I understand, yeah, we probably need more apartments or housing. I don't know that many. It'll look like a cement jungle. It'll take away from, the homes. People walk around here. Children's play around here. There are people walking in the streets all the time. We don't need that extra traffic. It's just going to take away from the residential family home life. It'll look like a cement jungle over there. And I'd love to see what he means, or what kind of, where'd he get his information as far as businesses not coming up here because no one is up here to work. I've moved up here. I work in Wilmington. I drive every day. I would love to work up here, but the jobs are being filled constantly. There are always jobs. Maybe work on getting jobs up here. There are people everywhere looking for jobs. So I would love to see where he's getting his information about businesses not moving up here because there's nobody living in Nashua. I guess I have an issue with that and with taking away from the residential family country life up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, person with the name Harry with the Zoom hand raised, please give your name and address for the record.
Yes, hi. Good evening. My name is Hari Raghunathan. I live at 34 Spencer Drive in Nashua.
Could you spell your last name, please?
Sure. It's spelled R-A-G-H-U-N-A-T-H-A-N. GHU, N as in Nancy, A, T as in Tom, H, A, N as in Nancy.
Okay, thank you. Continue.
Yeah, thanks. Just want to echo what's been said here already. Little worried about the impact on traffic, and I have my kids, and I see people walking around and kids playing on the road and things like that. So I just want to understand what will be the impact of the residential neighborhood here. And I think AB and Ms. Toole and others have also pointed this out. I just want to understand what will be the impact on wildlife, environmental impact and things like that. So just want to understand, hear from Flatley a little bit more on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Falk, did I see you raise your hand, or was that something else?
No, I was not raising my hand, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we still have a few people on the call that haven't spoken up, but I'm going to assume they're just listening in, unless they want to. Okay, I see Mr. Dave Hill. Please give your name and address for the record.
Yeah, my name is Dave Hill. I live at 45 Scott Avenue. I posed this for the reasons given. I'm concerned about the density. There already are a good number of Flatley townhouse apartments there. I don't see why we need that kind of density altogether in the same area. And I'm concerned about the traffic. I don't think they have a sufficient traffic infrastructure for that many homes in that area. And I'd like to reiterate or touch on what Ebenezer brought up. So I think it's very telling that the city has pushed back on rezoning the area. So I think if you were to grant a variance, that would put you in opposition to the city council.
Thank you. If anybody wants to use the Zoom feature to raise your hand, you click on the reactions button and then there's a raise hand. Is there anybody else present on the call who wishes to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition?
What? Yeah.
Hello, Susanna Moria. Do you wish to speak?
Yes, please. My name is Susanna Moreira. I live at 22 Wharton Road in Nashua. I have several concerns. The first one is traffic. Traffic on the increase that this would bring to the traffic on Speakbrook Road and the area of South Nashua, the commercial district. It's already bad as it is. Don't try to go there on Saturdays. It's impossible. And it would make it much, much worse. Second, the impact on schools. It would impact schools as well. The third, I have questions. Why overcrowd an area that is already built up? No one disputes Mr. Flatley's right to develop his property, but he should limit the scope of his project to a level that will not have a big impact on the community. Why a 5-story building? Wouldn't a 3-story high enough? He has other buildings there, which are 2 or 3 stories. So why 5? Why that number? I think that's overkill. It's too much. The Flatley company should present to the city a plan to develop the whole parcel of land that he owns there. I don't think he did that, not to my knowledge. He's doing bit by bit. He wants variance now, another variance now, then. Why not a plan, say a 5-year plan to the city so that the city can know what's going to happen and prepare for that with fire areas, fire escape areas, with sewers, with water, with schools, with traffic, with everything. So those are my points. Thank you for listening.
Anybody else? Speak up if you don't know how to use the raise hand feature, or because I can only see. Okay, Mr. Samuel, you wish to speak again?
I had one quick question, if that's okay to talk, if that's okay.
Sure.
I can wait if somebody else wants to talk. I can wait. That's fine too.
Go ahead. You're
Okay. I was going to just add up and to what Mrs. Tufo said, right? So I work in the computer science field, and I do a lot of hirings. And if you just go up to LinkedIn or any job site right now and look up Nashua, you would see hundreds of jobs being posted. So I don't know as well where Achani was saying when he said that the companies are finding it difficult to post jobs here because people are not coming in. So I'd like to get that answer too, if possible.
okay. Thank you. All right. Is there anybody else who hasn't spoken yet who wishes to speak? Mr. Sapaltis, how about we wait and see if there's other people who have already spoken, haven't already spoken. If you could use your raise hand.
That's fine. I can wait.
They can wait. Okay. Anybody who has not spoken, who is present, who wishes to speak? No. I mean, technically, I'm supposed to give each person 5 minutes, but yeah, I think that we have several letters. I think I'll read these letters into the record. Let's see here.
Mr. Lionel?
Yes.
I think it's Mr. Shaw, but I think Mr. Chapaitis, I think, he should be able to speak as an individual also. So I believe his wife spoke earlier, but I think if he wants to testify, he should be allowed to.
Okay. Thank you for that note. Mr. Chapaitis, go right ahead. Name and address, please.
My name is John Chapaitis. I live at 16 Shakespeare Road. We have been residents here since 1970. We have had a long history with the Flatley Company, and it has been a trail of broken promises. The most recent is during the building of the apartments that first came into their property. People in the neighborhood were told that any damage from blasting would be addressed by the company, and that did not happen. A second development was approved, and again, those blasting damages that occurred to residents in the neighborhood were not addressed. I think Flatley has purchased this land, and it continues to try to cherry pick what it wants to do in the development. As Mr. Prunia said, the property swings around from Spitbrook Road all the way over to Timberline. And they will continue to nitpick as each zoning board moves on, and they continue to ask for zoning variances to meet their economic needs. I'm not sure that they always have the best interests of the city in mind. They are a business, and they are trying to make a corporate profit. They are not altruistic. And the last person you turned down as a variance,
Go ahead.
I cut off.
I can still hear you. Please.
Okay, I just saw another screen come across.
Well, if somebody else hasn't muted and they speak up, then it does that.
I'm not going to go, much longer, but I mean, the last person, it was from his point of view, it was a hardship. Asking for the variance, you denied it. This is not a hardship for the Flatley group.
Thank you.
I'm finished. Thank you.
Before I read the letters, anybody else speak? Okay, we have several letters. We have one from a Patricia Martone. on Wharton Road. She doesn't give her actual, her numbered address. She writes, I am concerned about number 9 on your docket involving the Flatley Company's requesting for a variance to build 266 apartment units and 28 townhouse units in Ward 8. This is an area where he has already built multiple apartment units and has overcrowded Bicentennial School. I'm also concerned with so many additional units that the fire department would be stretched beyond their limits. Surrounding neighborhoods would be negatively affected regarding increased traffic flow and the possible openings of right-of-ways, which would decrease the property values in surrounding neighborhoods. I do not think a variance should be granted for residential units, but that the owner should follow his initial plan of building a research and development center. Okay, so that's that.
Mr. Chair, that was 16.
That was 16? Okay. Thank you. All right, and we have one from Kathleen Chung at 18 Wharton Road. She says, I am against approving the variance. My concerns are as follows. Number 1, water consumption. Last year, there was a water ban due to lack of precipitation. This is the first time in 36 years I've resided here that this happened. If you increase the water consumption and there is a lack of precipitation, the additional units will put a strain on the system. The same can be said for the sewer. Water pressure will be less than ideal. Number 2, Bicentennial School District will not be able to handle the increased influx of students, thus requiring additional construction to accommodate them and increase taxes. Who will pay for the added construction? Taxpayers. Number 3, influx of wildlife destroying my yard and garden due to the prior construction of Mr. Flatley's buildings. The animal's habitat has been compromised from the wooded areas that was there prior. Number 4, increased traffic on Spitbrook Road. I avoid this area as much as possible due to the increase in traffic. It will only become worse. Number 5, the proposed residents will most likely work in Massachusetts since Nashua is on the New Hampshire-Massachusetts border. Thus, there will be no boost to the local job market. Okay, that's Kathleen Chung, 18 Wharton Road. Let's see, we have something from Marcella Smith at 13 Wharton Road. I disagree that the enforcement of the ordinance results in unnecessary hardship for the applicant. When the applicant purchased the land, the property was zoned as park industrial. It was not zoned for multifamily dwellings. The applicant knew the zoning when he purchased the land. There is no hardship because this land can still be used as it is currently zoned. There is a reasonable use of the property. Paraphrasing the applicant, adding 266 multifamily units and 28 townhomes is a benefit to the area. This additional housing would put a burden on the local schools, increase taxes, and significantly increase traffic on Spitbrook Road. Using the land as it is zoned as park industrial is more likely to add jobs to the area, which would benefit Nashua. Therefore, the ordinance serves its purpose in a fair and reasonable way. Shouldn't there be a high bar for receiving a zoning variance? Neighbors bought their properties knowing there would be park industrial zoning on this property, not a 5-story, 266 multifamily dwelling and 28 townhouses. The applicant has not proven hardship. Please deny this zoning variance. And then we have, we have this one from the city of Nashua, from Tim Cummings, who is the Director of Economic Development. Mr. Cummings writes, I'm writing in opposition to the requested use variance from Land Use Code Section 190-15, where the applicant is seeking a use variance to develop 266 residential apartment-style units and 28 townhome-style units. Without question, the city of Nashua needs more housing, and as a community, we should strive towards creating more housing of all types for our residents. However, that does not mean we should create housing at all costs. In fact, there is a neighborhood and a community that will be impacted should you approve this variance. The fact is, approving this variance will be contrary to the public interest because the land is zoned as park industrial and is one of the last few tracts of large land areas available to attract a large number of jobs and be an economic engine for the southern New Hampshire region. I'm asking that you reject this variance request and recommend that the applicant more appropriately be directed to a zoning change where the community as a whole can participate through a legislative process. It is through a zoning change the appropriate impacts can be assessed and a better community for all can be realized. A use variance of this nature does not meet the spirit of the city's zoning ordinance because the impacts will be so severe and the community will not have had an opportunity to properly assess them. Finally, I would be remiss not to point out that the city, through the Office of Economic Development, started to work with the applicant on crafting a zoning ordinance which would have addressed the issues outlined above. But the applicant instead chose to pursue this process, believing it would be more expedient. I respectfully submit that 294 units of residential housing, as contemplated on park industrial land, should have a Board of Aldermen legislative process. Thank you for your consideration of this issue, and if I can be of any assistance relative to this matter or any other, please do not hesitate to contact me, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. I believe we had one other letter from somebody who also spoke, so I'm not going to read that one in. I think that's everybody that I got a letter from. At this point, Attorney Prunier, you have 5 minutes to rebut the points that were made by the various members speaking in opposition.
Well, I would like to address Mr. Sapaitis' thing about blasting. Blasting is controlled by the city. It's controlled by the city fire department. If anyone has any problems, they should make the complaint to the fire department, who in turn will get the insurance company of the blasting company involved to take care of those damages. It is controlled by the fire department, which requires that an insurance company of the blasting company be registered with the fire department. So if there are any damages, they should address them through that manner. It is available in the city of Nashua. Traffic has been done and has been proposed and is given to the city as to the improvements that should be made. However, those are taken up, unfortunately, more by the planning board than your committee. I am prepared, however, to have our engineer give a 1.5 minute quick summary of the traffic to show that it has been addressed. The same thing with the schools. We've had a fiscal impact study done, and we're ready and prepared to do that. We have, contrary to what Mr. Cummings' letter is saying, we have tried to meet with them. We have tried to do it. But as I indicated earlier, come and talk to us. We've asked to talk to you, and we haven't got the response. That is not your problem. That's not your problem. You've got enough problems. This is not one of them. So, but I just want the board to know that we have talked, we've continually tried, we made reports for the city, and we've done those things. We have not ignored the city. We have not ignored any of the problems. If you'd like, Mr. Chairman, I'll leave it up to you as to whether or not you would like our consultants to give a 1.5 minute report. I'll give up part of my 5 minutes to take care of those.
I do not. I think that if you had wanted to present that information, it should have been part of the packet that we received earlier. So this is simply a rebuttal. You now have 3 minutes left to rebut the points that the various people make. I also see that there's 2 people who have raised their hand. I wish they'd done that when I asked for people who wish to speak. At this point, I'm not going to call any further people. So, Mr. Prunier, continue.
As for the traffic, we have done the traffic report. We have the improvements, and I believe that the city agrees with the improvements that we have proposed for Spitbrook Road and for that particular area. As far as the school is concerned, our fiscal impact shows that we far outnumber the benefit of the city than any impact upon the schools. We're only talking about the total amount out of those close to 300 units, about 30 students that would go to, I believe it would be bicentennial. So it's not a tremendous amount of students that would go to that particular area. as far as the open space, the density, and children walking and so forth. We've provided for the trails. We've provided for the ball fields. We've provided for the pools. We've provided for the ski areas. Tell me another development in the city that matches ours. There's none. We have taken care of making sure that the adults as well as the children have an area to play and stay out of streets. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Prunier. I'm sorry that I see 2 hands raised in Zoom, but I did make multiple calls for people to speak up, and we're out of that cycle now. The people with questions, concerns, or opposition, one and only one person may have 5 minutes to speak if they wish. I don't know how you're going to agree on who that's going to be. I mean, normally when we do this in person, you all huddle together, but that doesn't work this way. Ms. Poirier, do you have a suggestion?
Yes, thank you. Typically how the planning board has been doing it is they give 5 minutes to the collective to share. Essentially, they put the clock running at 5 minutes and let people just speak.
All right, we can do that. So you're in charge of the clock, and just start talking. Okay, I see Ms. Sapaitis wants to say something. You need to unmute yourself, though, please. You're still muted.
I'll start. This tool. So for a matter of time, but they said the skiing area, there's townhouses on the skiing area. So I'm not too sure how that's impacted the environment or the adults in the area. Next.
So I can talk to. So I know that Johnny said that they've done fiscal study to prove that, or to say that the school district would not be affected. I can tell you for sure that I was affected. My daughter had to go to Birchill because Bicentennial couldn't take her, and I live half a mile from Bicentennial. And the only reason is because they said that there was no spots left at Bicentennial for my daughter to go. Right? I have I have a second kid who's planning to go to Bicentennial. So I heard their older sister talking to him saying that, oh, he might not even go to Bicentennial because there's so many people coming here. So I don't know where the Johnny got the information saying that the fiscal study said that there's no effect to the school district.
Okay, yes, Ms. Sapaitis.
I'm sorry. I heard Mr. Prunier talk about the blasting. And it wasn't until we went to the fire department, John and I sat down and said, do you have any control over the blasting? And at that time, they had none. They may have put something in right now, but let me tell you, any damage that was done on Shakespeare Road is, to my knowledge, was not compensated by the insurance company. Just so you know that. I just wanted to bring that up. I'm sorry. I just wanted to bring that up. You're welcome.
Next. You don't have to speak, but people with questions, concerns, or opposition?
To add on to the blasting, as a resident at Terra Heights, we were never given any information that blasting was being done. It wasn't until I left my apartment and ventured up the street that I discovered that blasting was being done.
Okay, thank you. Still have a few minutes left for the final comments.
Few minutes left.
Few minutes left, but it's not required. Okay, I see Ms. Valandri wants to say something.
The last time I was at the ward meeting with the mayor, I was sitting at a table of teachers from Bicentennial, and they were talking, they were talking about the odor apartments that had been built and were being built. And they said they absolutely were impacted by those number of children and weren't going to be able to handle anymore. And I don't have showed it in the system, so I'm just sharing.
Thank you.
I have well, there's one question that was really specific to get an answer on. Is the road going to be open between Shakespeare and Digital? And I've heard people talk about this, but I just don't know if that's a plan that might be done. I don't know if there's a right forum to ask, but I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that we're not at the point where you can get further questions answered. This is a rebuttal to Attorney Prunier's final comments.
Thank you, no problem.
Anybody else? Okay. I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Courier, you have comments?
I will unmute myself. I guess I'm struggling with the hardship overall. I mean, I hear Attorney Prunier's argument that there's this hardship of needing homes and then you can have the businesses, but I don't follow that logic. I mean, I see it more, I think it was like Miss Tufo, and that if there are jobs, people will come. I mean, people like me, I drive down to Massachusetts all the time because that's where the jobs are. I feel Nashua needs good park industrial jobs. So I don't find that hardship. It's certainly Nashua needs housing, but that is a transient need that kind of exceeds the immediate zoning as I see it. I mean, cycles come and go, and I think that this large parcel of park industrial is still perfectly suited for park industrial. I also feel that the quantity of homes, I mean, I am persuaded by Tim Cummings' letter. It's not like we're discussing making a 2-family a 3-family. We're talking 296 units by variance. And I don't feel qualified that I'd be making a sound decision to approve that because of all of the impacts that are beyond the schooling, the fire, the police, et cetera. So I am not in support of this application, and I'm looking forward to hearing the balance of the board's comments.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
I pretty much view this as a request for us to rezone the parcel. I don't see the hardship, and I think it really is. It needs to be something that's done legislatively. I simply feel that, you know, that's really what's in front of us, and it's not simple for me. I cannot support this application. I feel that we're being asked to go beyond the scope of our purview and into what is really a legislative responsibility for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McKay.
I too agree it's beyond the scope of this board. I can't find the hardship, quite frankly. And the amount of people who have come out to speak with concerns and objections speaks to the volume of upset, discontent, and no place to have their voices heard. I too am very much persuaded by the letter from the city of Nashua and Mr. Tim Cummings. This is a legislative issue that needs to be brought forward through the city process before it can be brought to one of the city's boards. This concerns us doing something that is way beyond the capacity of the zoning board to do. we can determine variances, special exceptions, things of that nature, but we cannot rezone. That's not within the scope or the purview of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. And for that and other reasons, and what has been spoken previous to my speaking, I absolutely cannot support this application.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
Unfortunately, I'm also not able to support the application. Just simply, again, I guess I do not see the hardship on the land or the, being able to reason that out. Whether or not, this, I wouldn't recommend one way or another whether or not this should be done in a different venue. I think just simply looking at the application, I don't see the hardship or why this still cannot be used as park industrial. So with that, I can't support the application at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Mancera.
I agree really with all the comments that were stated, and particularly Mr. Boucher's previous comments. I just have not heard any compelling argument as to why there are special conditions on the land that would warrant the variance. But I also agree, whatever the merits may or may not be, however much Nashua may need housing, I don't believe this is the appropriate forum.
Thank you. Ms. Boras.
I'm also not in favor of the application and for everything already stated by my colleagues.
Thank you. And I am also not in support of the application. I agree with those who said that this is an attempt to rezone this land, and I don't think this is the appropriate venue for that. If the applicant has been trying to get change zoning, this is just because they failed there. It doesn't mean they can come running to us to do it for them. That's not our job. And I don't see any of the points of law met for this request, and I would vote to deny the request. So what I'm gathering is all of the board members would be in favor of denying the request. Would somebody care to make a motion? Mr. Shaw, thank you. You need to unmute. Yes,
thank you. Going to make a motion on behalf of owner John J. Flatley Company, doing business as John Flatley Company. The address is 200 Innovative Way, and this is Sheet A, Lot 798. The request is for a use variance from Land Use Code, Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 15, to allow the construction of 266 multi-family dwelling units in one 5-story building with parking garage under, and 28 townhomes located in 7 4-unit buildings, and this is in the PI zone. The variance has not been shown to be required for the applicants. There is not special condition on the property that requires this proposal to be supported. There has not been a hardship that comes with the land that's evident, and there are other reasonable methods that still can be pursued for the applicant's use of this property. It is not within the spirit and intent of the ordinance, and especially to that extent, the board believes that this is would be beyond the normal scope of what the zoning board's powers are, and that this is acting more like a rezoning for this area and should be dealt with from a legislative perspective. There are concerns about the property values of surrounding parcels in the greater neighborhood, but this has not been significantly addressed one way or the other. It would be contrary to public interest, and substantial justice would not be served. And for those reasons, I move to deny this use variance.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Ms. McKay, thank you. Any discussion of the motion? Seeing none. Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Ms. McKay votes in favor of the denial.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor of the denial.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor of the denial.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor of the denial.
And I, Mr. Lionel, also vote in favor of the denial. That's 5-0 denying the request. I'm sorry, Attorney Prunier, the variance is denied. As you know, there's a 30-day window of appeal. A rehearing request can be requested. You know how to talk to the city about that, and that's it. Okay, moving on. Do we have any rehearing requests? We have no other rehearing requests for this night, and I have not seen an agenda for the next meeting. Ms. Poirier, do we have an agenda?
It was just ready today. We have a Kate?
Yeah, I should have been CC'd on that. If not, I will pull it up and show the board what we've got for their enjoyment this time.
Yeah. We will be reviewing this for regional impact. Okay, all right. That looks fine. That looks all right. I don't see a regional impact there. Let's see what I don't know how many of these do we have? She has another page to go.
Yes.
9, 10. Okay.
That's about it.
That's 10. Okay. I don't see any regional impact. Does anybody else see any regional impact?
Mr. Courier sees no regional impact.
Mr. Boucher?
Shaw sees none.
Yeah. Mr. Boucher?
I see none.
Okay. Ms. McKay?
I see none.
Okay, and I also see none. So we have minutes from April 13th. Does anybody see any corrections or have issues about the minutes? Not seeing anybody. I have a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Ms. McKay and Mr. Shaw seconds. All right, we'll vote for that. Ms. McKay, how do you vote?
Ms. McKay votes in favor.
In favor, okay. Mr. Shaw?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor.
Mr. Courier?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher?
Boucher votes in favor.
And I, Mr. Lionel, also vote in favor. And okay, and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Shaw, second. Mr. Boucher, okay, we are adjourned at 9:34 p.m.